Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Candid Convos. And today's guest is Chrystan Carlton. Chrystan, thank you for joining us. Let our audience know what type of law practice do you run, what type of attorney you are. So can you please let us in on who you are and what you do?
So yes, I'm Chrystan Carlton. I am here in Chicago. I work with small business owners, social enterprise entrepreneurs, and nonprofit founders. My business is centered around being the almost assistant to the CEO without doing the administrative assistant type things. Um, my work experience comes from working in very large Fortune 500 banks. And in those banks, those CEOs they don't make a move. They go through their entire day with their general counsel right there with them. So I built my model around doing that, but for the small business owners, since statistically, small businesses employ 50% of all employees in the United States. But they move without an attorney most of the time because they're afraid to call their attorney because they're afraid that there are going to be fees and they're wondering whether or not they can afford them. And realistically, they can't afford not to. So I try to build my practice so that so I can be accessible and I answer the phone.
Okay, so what gave you that idea? Like, I need to be more accessible. Was that like a business idea, or is more like empathy, maybe somewhere in between?
Probably empathy. Um, when I finished law school, I went to work for a startup in Angola, in Africa, to Share Development Group. And we hired a really major franchise attorney here in the States. He was like the go-to guy. And what I noticed is that we were always waiting. We're always waiting for the attorneys to get time to get to us, to get to our work, and it would be prioritized and they would miss the deadline. And then even in dealing with like personal issues with my mom and estates and conservatorships and my friends as our parents become baby boomers, dealing with the attorneys and them getting their time. And we made a list of all the stuff that made us crazy and decided that, with the business that I launched in 2021. So the business has been around since 2012, but I started to go full-time 2021, that I wanted to not do all those things that made everybody crazy. But in order to do that, it meant that I could not appeal to the masses. Like the masses couldn't be my clients because the masses will just all come at once, right? So I don't do family law. I don't do divorce. I don't do personal injury. I don't do any of those things where there's lots and lots of individuals. And I have an MBA in finance. So my experience and my background is really cultivated to serve that small business owner. So it occurred to me, if the small business owner can have access to their attorney to ask those simple questions that they would otherwise think, I don't want to ask a stupid question, but for them it's important right now, then they can go forth, make good decisions about their business and hire more people, increase the number of people that are, employed, decreasing the unemployment rate, decreasing the amount of crime in Chicago where I live, making it easier for me to walk my dog.
How did you hear about us? Because I know you interacted with either one of our co-founders, his book, the company, and we help you with some of your company growth. How
Yes.
did you learn about us?
So I think I learned about you while doing research to figure out what roles I need. This is the part that's funny, right? Which roles do I need to fill? Who's going to do what in the firm? And you guys have lots of literature out there about here's the top 5 roles you need to fill. Here's the top 7 roles you need to fill. I'd actually referred you out to one of my clients that is an attorney before I hired you myself. So then, where's my little book? I want to pull it out. I know we're on the audio. Yeah, here we go. So then I was at a lawyerist conference, LabCon, and they gave us a copy of 24 Months to Read Freedom for free. So we're there, we get it signed, and mine is signed by Brett, and Brett Tremblay is the author of this book. I don't read books from front to back, which is the way that you're taught in school to do them as a novel. I read them from the back to the front, right? So I started in with the back with the epilogue. Then I went from epilogue to final thoughts. Then I went from final thoughts back to what do you need to do to take action? Because ultimately, whatever is at the end is usually the point. And when you do mathematics, and I have a degree in mathematics, it's what's the bottom? The answer is 6. Okay, so how do we get to 6? And then I go from the bottom up. So I read that. And then what I did is I went through on the last page of each chapter, it'll say your first hire, your second hire, your third hire. And then I built a spreadsheet. If you want to see it, I can pull it up and show it to you. I built a spreadsheet that outlined, here are the 7 people you need to hire. Here are all the tasks that each of these people are doing. And I put it all into my spreadsheet. And then I had, okay, so here's the get staffed up model. Here's the Carlton Law model. Here are the pieces that I already have. Here's doing those pieces. And I cross out the ones we don't need. Because part of this presumes, right, you've got people calling on your phone. You're going to have somebody to answer the phone. Well, that is not how we get our clients. There's no telephoning in. I don't know. That's not true. Last 2 days, I had 2 people call me from the Illinois Bar Association. That's fine. But still, most of the time, it's not people calling in. Most of the time, it's outbound work. But so that is the work of kind of like our sales assistant, but not quite the intake specialist, right? So I made the parallels, figured out what I was doing, what I was missing. And I said, okay, I've been in business for 27 months. I want to be free in 24 months. So I'm 3 months behind. And I said, okay, so I probably don't have to start at month 1, but let's suppose I did start at month 1. Who do I need? So once I figured out all the tasks that I have taken care of, I made a list of the ones that I need. And then I called to get staffed up. And I talked to Hector and I talked to Beatrice and I said, look, here's my spreadsheet. Here's all the things I got. Here's what I need. Here's what, according to your book, says that I'm missing. Some of these things aren't going to be important for me. I need these 20 things. And then they found me Paula, and she is a godsend. This woman is her weight in gold. Like, she hurt her arm. I'm like, Carla, I don't even care. Just log in when you can. The work will be waiting for you. But she's still, even though she's got like one arm literally tied against her side, still getting more done than probably any 3 or 4 assistants that I found on my own beforehand. She's fantastic.
Well, that I can't believe, because you know what? I think you must have played a very important part in that as well. I've seen this relationship before, because this is still, it's not new, but it's still fairly recent way of working digitally, working remote. And a lot of people jumped ahead of the curve. Many people in this industry started doing it before the pandemic hit. When the pandemic hit, then there was no turning back. Court is not going to go back face to face 100%. We're still getting even more digitalized. It's more effective, it's faster. But to work with somebody that's sometimes not even in the same states, this time not even in the same country. Sometimes people have, there's cultural issues. Okay, so there might be some boundaries, or there might be some things that I need to explain. And that's when I've seen that the onboarding, the fact that you got processes, the fact that you know how you want your firm to run, and you do know your workflow, so you know from front to back, or in this case, from back to front, how things be managed. You know, it's just, so you know how to add up, you know how to structure it, and you place it in front of somebody. So it's easy to digest like that. It was easy for me in less than 15 minutes to digest just an idea of how you like running your business. Now that's not that's not easy. That's easier said than done. But I guess your onboarding with her played a pivotal part. Or maybe was she just like a godsend in the manner that you started saying, okay, this is what you do, and she didn't need any type of feedback? Because I don't see that happening. Or did that happen?
It kind of almost happened, right? So in my spreadsheet, and if you want me to share it with you, I can. I made a tab for the get staffed up assistant. I said, okay, Hector, I need all of these 24 things. And there literally are 24 things here that I need to have done, right? He brought me someone that had project management experience, that understood all of the things that I had here on my list. And when she started, I gave her a 2-day self-paced onboarding, because we are a virtual firm. We've always been a virtual firm. And then even when I finished law school and was working for the firm that was in Angola, I did so from Chicago. I had a Chicago office. I'd leave my house, go to the office, and I would sit there by myself while everybody else was in Angola. So I was basically remote at that time. I got acclimated to working at that time with remote assistants, with remote people, because, I mean, even when I was working, in very large banks like JP Morgan, if I'm sitting on the 37th floor, I'm not always walking down to the lower level to get something. I'm going to call, I'm going to have a video chat just like this. We're in the same building, but we're still video chatting. What's the difference if I'm video chatting from the 37th floor, or I'm video chatting from Chicago, or I'm video chatting from Marrakesh, or I'm video chatting from Indonesia or Chile? I'm still video chatting.
I do want to be very mindful of your time. So if there is one last question that I'd like to ask is, where can people find you and what can you do to them?
So people can find me at taxandcontracts.com. I picked that URL because it's easier to remember. You don't know how many L's you got to put into Carlton loyalty deeps, tax and contracts, right? Because that's ultimately what it comes down to when you're dealing with a business. We got taxes to deal with contracts. So it's taxandcontracts.com. From Tax and Contracts on any of the little get in touch, schedule here, anything you press will let you go right to my Calendly, and my calendar is open. If there's time on it, book it.
Chrystan, it's been really, really a great time meeting you, and thank you for showing up, and thank you for being part of the show.
Thank you. You have a fantastic day.